Painting fundamentals, and let's start with a little bit of more theory. Yes, I'm sorry, but with this theory you'll have a much better base and you'll be a much better painter. So you really need this to get on. I'll keep it as short as possible, so let's start right away. So a painting is a 2D rendering and it consists of three fundamentals. The first one is shape or shapes. The second one is value, and the third one is edge or edges. Okay, so let's start with shape. And shape is the outline of an object, and let me outline the shape of this well, the well we made in a previous lecture. This is the basic shape of this object. Maybe we should go around the hole as well. And within this shape there are even more shapes. So for example, we have the bricks, so all those little bricks here, and the roof tiles, those are shapes as well. The wooden planks here, all little shapes. And don't forget that there's another one, and that is the shape of the shadows and the lighter sides. When you make a painting, you first draw the outlines of the biggest objects in simple geometric shapes. So for example, when you start painting, you start with painting circles, a square, triangles. Simple shapes like that makes up the first setup of your painting. So working with these shapes keeps you focused on the overall picture at the start of the painting. And you should try to keep the identity of the subject. So for example, when you draw an egg, you draw an egg shape and you do not draw a square shape. Your well, for example, could be drawn with two rectangles like this, and two squares and two rectangles. So this could make up the basic shape of your well. And when you're happy with this basic shape, you could draw in the bricks and the tiles, the roof tiles. And after that, you can even go further and, for example, draw some shadows here, or wear and tear, I don't know, stuff like that. And what you'll always do is start big and go into more detail over the overall picture. So you don't start putting in detail in one point, but you do that everywhere. Keep the detail consistent over the overall picture during painting. In other words, work from big to small. We did shapes now. The next fundamental of painting is value. But to be more precise, value is a building block of color. So we have color before value. And color is made up of hue, chroma, and value. The reason why I say shapes, value, and edges and not shapes, color, and edges will be explained a little bit later. So let's first explain what a hue means. Hue is what most people call color. So when we have a look at the color wheel, red, blue, green, red, those are the colors. In right terms, you call it hue. If you open up or click on a color and you see the color wheel here, you can also put it on HSV here, and that's hue, saturation, or value. And that's in fact hue, chroma, and value. So those three things here are the things that you see here. You can see when you drag on hue, you can see it rotates around the color circle and it shows you all the colors. And we have a blue side on the circle and a red side. And the blue side, so these colors are the cool colors, and the ones on this side are the warm colors. So if you want to have a mnemonic for that, blue is the color of ice, so an ice cream, and red is the color of fire. So I draw this here because now you will never forget. Cool colors are blue and warm colors are red. The next part of color is chroma, and chroma is the purity of the color. So how pure or how gray is a color? And if you open up here, we call it saturation in Blender. But as you can see, when I drag this down, when I make the purity less, it'll starts going to white. And I believe that in fact if I put this halfway, that would be more correct. So if I put the value on 0.5, and now you can see when you're going down, the red is a nice more pure color, and when you're going down you go to gray, and gray is more of a dirty color, so to speak. So the purity is 100% here, or 1 here, and the purity is less in the middle where it gets grayer. So in other words, neutralizing a color is bringing it closer to gray. So when I do this, now it's red, and when I neutralize it, I bring it closer to gray. That's one part of doing it. The other thing what you can do is, instead of mixing it with gray or adding gray, so let me do that with this green color, for example. I'll draw it here and put the strength down a bit, and I'll draw some green color here, like that. Okay, so it's nice and green now. It's a pretty pure color, you could say. So now when I add gray, so I pick up a gray color, so I'll put the saturation down. You'll have a nice gray color here, and I color this in. Then I have a mixture of green and gray, and the more gray I get, the lower the chroma is. I can also add the complementary color. So that's the color on the other side of the color wheel. So in this case it's purple. So when I add this, I neutralize the color as well. And problem with this is that with ink, and well, it shouldn't be with digital ink, but the because the color isn't pure, or the pigment isn't pure, you'll never get a pure gray. You always get something that's a little bit more green or a little bit more purple, for example. So to recap, neutralizing a color is bringing it closer to gray by either adding gray or adding a complementary color. And the next thing then we'll have here of color is the value. And why do we use value instead of color? Value is how light is a color. So when you put it up, the color is green. It's very light. When you put it down, the color gets darker. So when I do that here, maybe it's more clear. So when I put it up here, like 0.9 for example, and I pick a color as well, you can see it's a pretty bright color, and when I turn this down, it gets a dark green. So again, value is how light a color is. And the numbers of values are infinite. It's an infinite number between white or black, but most artists use a scale from 0 to 10. The reason for that is that it's just, you can name it easier. So for example, when I have this gray color here, your teacher might say, make that one value lighter. Adding black to a color is called shading, and adding white to a color is called tinting. So to shade you add black, and to tint you add white. And another thing is adding gray, and that is called toning, and that is in fact the same as neutralizing. Some artists replace value with color, and that's what we did here. So we have shapes, values and edges. And why did we replace value for color? That's because some paintings are black and white, so they don't have any color at all. Or better, there's no hue and there's no chroma. So you can make a painting without hue and chroma, and just shapes, values and edges, and that's why some artists, and I like to do that as well, talk about shape, value and edges. Okay, that's shapes. We did value and hue, chroma and color as well. The next one is edges, and I'll clean up the canvas and draw something in there so I can explain it better to you. So let's clean up the canvas. So I cleaned my canvas, and if you want you can follow along. I've set my background color to something like this, a light gray. As you can see here, the value is 0.773. Let's make that 0.7 just to make it easier. Okay, so it's a little bit darker now. So background is 0.7. So I'm going to explain edges, and first make your brush a white color. and then make it really big, or well, something like this. So 250 pixels, so nice round numbers, you can follow along more easily. Then we go all the way down here, and we go to fall off. We choose the pyramid fall off, and drag the top point all the way to the right until it's at about 0.96. Then we go up again, and at strength we put that on 0.7. And then we'll turn off the strength for now. Then just click once on your screen and then turn it on again. And let's pick a dark color about halfway and make the brush a little bit smaller by hitting either F or using the bracket keys. And then hit enter. Maybe a little bit smaller. No, this is okay. Okay, so about this size, about radius of about 50 or 60 pixels. And then start drawing in the shadow here. Just do it like this. Make a shape that's something like this. Okay. And then you'll start going up here on this side. Make the brush a little bit smaller. And then go to that side as well. And it may look a little bit ugly now, but it'll get better later on. And just draw in like that a little bit more, and make it your brush a little bit lighter again. So about 75% of the bar here of the value, and then draw some more. Or paint some more, I should say. Just make nice round shapes like that. I'm feeling like Bob Ross now. I don't know if you know him, but well, I don't have that much hair anymore, so I don't look like him, but it's kind of the feeling when he's painting and talking. Okay, so that's that. And then go to your smear brush, and let's do some magic here, because now you'll see that when you just start smearing out the colors a bit and try to follow the shape of the ball as good as you can. And here you can just draw a little bit more dark color in the ball if you want to. Okay, and just drag along until you feel that the color is on the right spot. And on the top here we'll just make it really soft, so we'll smear it out very much. There's a reason for that, of course, because we are still talking about edges, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm creating all sorts of edges. Well, that should about do it, I guess. Make it a little bit darker here maybe. So let's go back to the text draw and pick a darker color, smaller brush, put some dark colors here in this crease, so to speak, maybe. And let's just smear it out a bit again, like that. Well, I hope you have something similar now. Maybe I'm going too fast, but it's just a practice thing, so it's, I mean, it's just to show you a little bit how I set up something. Well, it's okay, there you go, that's better. So, okay, not my best painting, but whatever. So, as you can see, this is still sort of a ball, and we'll talk about edges. So we have a number of edges, and the first edge we have is the sharp edge, and well, we're missing a little bit of sharp edges here, but you could call this one a sharp edge. It's pretty sharp, right? And then the second edge we'll have is a firm edge, and a firm edge is something like this. So there is an edge, but it's not as sharp as going bam from one color to the other. And then there's a soft edge. That's the, as you can see here, this is where it's going from dark to light. It's a really slow transition. I'll just paint in there a little bit more, so it'll be even slower. So that's the soft edge. And then we also have a lost edge, and that's the one over here, where you don't really see the difference anymore between the ball and the shadow. And there's another one over here with a edge is, well, it's kind of soft, but you can't really tell where the edge is. You know where it is because your brain knows that it's a ball. So it'll try to make this round shape in your head, and you'll know that, well, the ball ends here and the shadow starts there, and the ball ends there and the background starts there. But that's the fun thing with edges. You can create all sorts of shapes, and with the help of the right kind of edge, you can create a certain atmosphere or tease your brain to fill in certain parts. And what's important about this as well is that you don't have that much shape here anymore. So you could simplify a painting by using a lot of lost edges, for example. So if you look at, to go back to shape, we have this round shape, of course, but there is not much shape in this painting overall now. So for example, if I let's take a red brush. So you'll see a shape like this maybe. And there's a shape like this. Those two shapes could be enough to create a ball, okay? So that's very important in painting, to know how to simplify your subject. And a lot of that you can do with simplifying or losing edges. And the way you do that is what really makes you your own kind of painter. So that's it for the 3 fundamentals of painting. We've talked about shapes. So when you set up a painting, you first set up a basic shape, like we did with the circle, for example. And we've talked about value. So we colored in some value in the circle, which made it look more like a ball. And then we had a look at our edges. That's it for this lecture, and see you in the next